So let's go ahead and learn more about the 4 steps of a hypothesis test. So for the first step, we're stating a hypothesis. Now, I've described to you in previous videos the idea that, as social scientists, our hypotheses are things that we're curious about relate to human and, human social behavior. All right. And so we can still have these guesses why it is that certain political ideologies are developed in certain regions of a country, or why it is that our education systems, why do they introduce the scientific method hypothesis testing at middle school versus 5th grade, so on and so forth. So those are things concerning the social world, right? Behavioral interactions and human social and behavioral interaction overall. And so we always begin our process of hypothesis testing by stating the hypotheses. In this class, we're going to state 2 hypotheses, and we are going to do this every time we come across a test that we are wanting to run. The reason that we're only focused on 2 is because while we can actually establish more than just 2 hypotheses, for the purpose of this class, we'll only focus on 2 potential outcomes for running an analysis. But before I get to the outcomes piece, let's focus in on the hypotheses that you first state. So we have this first hypothesis, which is called H0. Okay, that's also referred to as your null hypothesis. Your null hypothesis is an expectation, maybe expectation isn't the right word. Your null hypothesis is the hypothesis that whatever you're studying will carry no significant difference between your sample and your population. Some of what I describe as we're moving through this presentation may not make sense right away, but I encourage you to just, keep moving forward in the presentation. And as we learn more about the various steps of hypothesis testing, it's all going to be pieced together. So please don't feel frustrated if the first time I mention something, it doesn't totally click. That's fine. So your H0 is your null hypothesis, and in that you're saying there's not going to be a difference between my sample and my population. And what does that mean? So when we are, when we're collecting sample data, we want to know how reflective is this sample of our population. And so there's ways in which we determine whether or not there's a significant difference between sample and population data, or if there's not a significant difference between sample and population data. And in the null hypothesis, we're saying we don't anticipate there to be a significant difference between the sample and population data. So that's H0. H1 is going to be our research hypothesis. Now, I want you to know that there are actually other terms that we can use to refer to this hypothesis. Sometimes you'll see it referred to as research hypothesis. You may see it referred to as an alternative hypothesis. You might also see scientific hypothesis. But they're all representative of the same idea. And remember that in this class, we're only focused on 2 hypotheses, your null and then this research, scientific, or alternative hypothesis. Now, this hypothesis is on the other side of the null hypothesis, where the null hypothesis is making the claim that there will not be a significant difference between the sample and population. The research hypothesis is saying there will be a significant difference between the sample and population. Now, 2 important key factors to understand about the null and research hypotheses are, firstly, that they are mutually exclusive. And when we use that language, what we're saying is both of these hypotheses cannot be true, right? If step 1 is kind of setting us up to say, we haven't run the test yet. We really don't know what's going to happen. So here are the potential outcomes. There's not going to be a significant difference in your null versus there will be a significant difference in your research hypothesis. Both of those things cannot be true when we get to the end of our results. So they are mutually exclusive. The other part is that they have to be exhaustive. Again, I want to emphasize, in this class, we're only focused on 2 hypotheses, your null and your research. And in this case, they are exhaustive. We're covering all potential outcomes. There either is not significance or there is significance.